the real way to sound native. What's up, C2 Squad? It's your favorite English-speaking guru, Kit, and you are locked into Piece of Cake Speak English, where we turn language from a chore into a superpower. All right, if you're here today, you've probably reached that point where you can speak English fluently. You're past the basics, you've mastered the tricky grammar, and you've got a vocabulary that's frankly pretty impressive. But let's be real for a second. You still feel like something's missing, right? Like you're not just speaking, you're assembling sentences. It's time to stop assembling and start performing. Today, we're not talking about grammar rules or new idioms. We're talking about the magic tricks of language, the rhetorical devices, the figurative language, the stuff that makes people stop, listen, and think, wow, this person knows what they're doing. This is how you go from being just a great speaker to a captivating one. This is the fun part. Let's dive in. Let's kick things off with something super relevant to C2 learners, the fluid, ever-changing language of social currency. This isn't about formal English. It's about the phrases that show you're not just fluent, but you're also culturally dialed in. We're talking about the stuff that people are actually saying on social media, at parties, and with their friends. First, let's talk about being really, really good at something. You're no longer just talented. You're in your bag. This is a phrase you'll hear in sports, music, and business. When you're at peak performance, you're in your bag. Think about it. A basketball player hitting every shot is in his bag. A musician giving a perfect performance is in her bag. It's a quick, powerful way to say someone is operating at a top-tier level. So, the next time you nail a presentation at work, you can turn to a colleague and say, "Yeah, I was really in my bag today." Here's another one. To describe a person, an object, or a moment that has a unique and cool atmosphere, you can just say it's a whole vibe. A beginner would say, "This cafe feels really nice." A C2 learner who's culturally fluent would say, "This cafe is a whole vibe." It's not just a nice feeling. It's a complete atmosphere, a mood, a sensation. You can use it to describe a person too. He's a whole vibe. It's a compliment that suggests they have a captivating and unique energy. And when someone looks fantastic, you don't just say, "You look good." You can say, "You are serving looks." This phrase is often used on social media, but it's found its way into everyday conversation. It implies that someone isn't just looking good, they're performing a service of style and confidence. You could say, "She showed up to the party serving looks." It's playful, it's modern, and it immediately makes you sound like you're in the loop. Mastering these kinds of phrases isn't about memorizing slang. It's about understanding how language evolves and using it to connect with people in a more authentic way. Let's switch gears and talk about something critical for advanced communication: using language to navigate delicate situations. This isn't about being weak. It's about being incredibly effective. First, let's talk about how to disagree diplomatically. A beginner might just say, "You're wrong." A more advanced learner might say, "I respectfully disagree." But a truly native-like speaker knows the power of softening their tone. They use phrases that show they're listening, even when they're about to counter. Try this. "I hear what you're saying, but I'm looking at this from a different angle." The first part acknowledges their point, and the second part introduces your perspective without directly challenging theirs. Or, my personal favorite for professional settings: "With all due respect, and I do mean that, I'm inclined to believe that we might be overlooking a key factor." It's a long sentence, sure, but it's a verbal dance that shows you're not just speaking, you're communicating with tact and respect. This is also key for making requests without sounding demanding. Instead of saying, "Send me that report," which is direct and a little blunt, try something with a softener. You could say, "Could you please send that report over when you have a moment?" "When you have a moment" is a small addition, but it shows you're considering their time and workload. This kind of nuanced language is what separates a good communicator from a truly masterful one. It shows you understand the social subtext. All right, let's get into the heart of speaking with flair, using figurative language. We're not talking about your school textbook definition. We're talking about how to paint a picture with your words. First up, metaphors. A metaphor is a verbal magic trick. Instead of saying something is like something else, you just say it is that thing. This is how you go from a speaker to a storyteller. For example, I once worked with a guy who was amazing at finding opportunities. Instead of saying, he's very good at spotting new possibilities, we used a metaphor. We said, he has a nose for a good deal. That phrase immediately conjured up the image of a bloodhound, sniffing out a great opportunity. It was a simple phrase, but it told a whole story about his character. And you can use these to describe yourself too. Let's say you're an artist. Instead of saying, I create things with my hands, you could say, my hands are an extension of my soul. See the difference? One is a description, the other is a powerful, evocative statement. Now, for a slightly longer example, let's imagine you're telling a story about starting your own business. It's a tough, chaotic process. A beginner would just say, starting my business was hard and complicated. A C2 speaker with some style would tell a story with an analogy. You could say something like, starting my business wasn't like building a car from a manual. It was like building a ship on the open ocean. You're constantly fighting the waves. The winds are unpredictable, and you're building the deck while the storm is raging around you. That analogy, that comparison, makes your experience relatable and vivid. It makes you a storyteller, not just a narrator. Let's get into the tools of humor and emphasis. We're talking about two sides of the same coin, hyperbole and understatement. Let's get into the tools of humor and emphasis. We're talking about two sides of the same coin, hyperbole and understatement. Hyperbole is language on steroids. It's when you say something that's not literally true just to make a point. It's the language of jokes and emotional expression. For example, if you see a really old car, you might not just say, that car is old. You'd say, that car is a dinosaur. Or if you've been waiting for 5 minutes, you don't say 5 minutes. You say, I've been waiting for an eternity. The exaggeration is what makes it fun and relatable. And then there's understatement, the quiet assassin of wit. This is when something is a really big deal, but you describe it as if it's no big deal at all. The humor comes from the gap between reality and your description. Imagine your company just won a massive, multi-million-dollar contract. You wouldn't say, we just won the most important deal in the company's history. You'd just smile and say, yeah, it was a pretty decent day. The understatement makes your achievement even more impressive because it implies that for you, it was just a small thing. You use this all the time. If someone asks you if you're a good cook and you just won a baking competition, you wouldn't say, I'm a great cook. You'd say, I can get by in the kitchen. This level of casual modesty is a hallmark of native-like fluency. Finally, let's talk about the stuff that makes you sound like a charismatic leader or a master storyteller. We're talking about rhetorical questions and anaphora. Rhetorical questions are questions you ask without expecting an answer. They're a way to engage your audience and get them to think about what you're saying. Instead of just stating this is important, you can ask, how can we ignore this problem? You're not looking for a reply, you're forcing them to agree with you. You can use them to build suspense, too. The whole team was working late. We had no idea if the project would be ready on time. So what did we do? And then you deliver the punchline. It's a simple trick, but it's used in every great speech for a reason. It works. And finally, my absolute favorite, anaphora. This sounds fancy, but it's just the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses. Think of famous speeches. They use anaphora to build rhythm and momentum. It makes your point incredibly powerful. You can use this in your everyday life, too. When you're trying to emphasize something in a presentation, you could say, "We need to innovate. We need to be faster. We need to be better." The repetition of "we need" makes your point stick in people's minds. It's not just a list of things, it's a powerful and persuasive statement. So there you have it, fam. Your personal toolkit for speaking with flair. We've talked about modern phrases to show your current, soft language for tactful communication, metaphors for creative storytelling, hyperbole and understatement for humor, and rhetorical questions, and anaphora for engagement and power. Now for your mission. Don't just listen to this. Do something with it. Over the next week, I want you to try to use at least one of these techniques. Tell a story using an analogy. Drop a dry understatement in a casual conversation. Ask a rhetorical question during a meeting. It will feel a little weird at first, but that's a good sign. It means you're pushing past your comfort zone. If this masterclass was helpful, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who's ready to level up. Until next time, this is Kit, and let's keep making flawless English a piece of cake.